Imagine leaving your family, your comfort zone, to travel abroad in search of solution to your problem, only for you to return over a decade later with the same issues but with a negative testimonial. What's it like to watch the anchor of your belief system crumble before your eyes just by watching a random documentary on your mobile device? Join Percy, Charles, and I on the Governor's Inbox as we take on matters arising from the story of Prophet T.B Joshua, popularly known as T.B Joshua, the founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, has been illustrated by the BBC Africa Eye.
I've been trying to imagine traveling somewhere for a decade in search of a solution and then coming back after then. Most probably I'm worse off. And of course, there's someone that I've been looking up to as a hero, and I'm sure a lot of people that have watched that documentary will be able to zero in on the character that actually depicts this. In the beginning, she felt she was gay, and that was the problem. They felt, okay, this lady is gay, or it must be a spiritual problem. So she has to travel all the way across the continent.
Deliverance.
Yes, to a place where she'd be able to. You set her straight. That means she's going to be as straight as a ruler. 10 years down the line, I think she's as crooked as a spring. You know how the spring will coil and coil and coil. And I think that's what has happened. Well, what a point to start this whole discussion on. But I think one of the things is, why did BBC have to do this now?
Well, for me, to answer the question, not your question, still imagining what went down in the last 10 years, or the 10 years that person had to leave her country in search of deliverance. Now, I'm sure when she left home, the LGBTQ laws were not there, It was probably illegal then. So now there are two things. She didn't get delivered from, whatever spirit it is that is behind her being gay. And now she's coming out back to a world where LGBTQ has been legalized.
To a certain extent.
So
maybe she has come out. Time has actually done the magic.
Exactly.
The miracle has been time.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's a win-win for her.
Is it possible that this particular person could have also initiated some people while she was still there?
Hey, you cannot rule that one out.
Of course. So instead of getting a solution,
you cannot rule that out. If you've watched 3 hours.
You're getting more problems, I would say. And you talked about why BBC would do a documentary like this. Now, it's a question that a lot of people have asked. I've asked this question when I first saw the documentary. Well, I think there is no a particular time that it's allowed for you to do stuff like this. We've talked about a lot of people that are passed on, and then I've seen documentaries on them. You mentioned some names.
Yeah, of course.
Idi Amin and other people.
You see, anyone that has been a very remarkable human being, whether he was a despot, whether he was a dictator, whether he was a hero, you see the likes of Haile Selassie, you see the likes of Idi Amin Dada of Uganda, you see the likes of Mobutu Sese Seko. If you just surf the net, you just go to YouTube, on the page of BBC, you're going to see all that coming out. The algorithms keep popping different kinds of documentaries that have been done after the people have died. So when people ask, why now? To me, it's kind of lame, because journalists can decide to do a story after or before or during. But
it's important for people to also understand that there is no time frame for documentaries like this.
And then in addition, if you watch the documentary, you will find that they put it out there. They wrote that this investigation started 2 years ago. I think even when the Prophet was still alive. So they didn't wait until he died before they started. I mean, these investigations takes time, and if you watched it, it came in 3 parts, and a lot of work went into it. It wasn't something that was done. You would just know, even if you are not a professional, that this isn't something that was hurriedly done. So it took a while for them to put this together. So it's not just coming now, just because the Prophet has been dead for 2 years or more. It's something that's according to them, and I believe the BBC have no reason to lie about that. It is what they say that we are picking them by their words. It took them 2 years to get this done.
Well, maybe it's because it's the BBC that is doing this that people are raising eyebrows. There have been denigrating videos on YouTube out there 4 years ago. And most probably, not most probably, he was still alive then. And these things are there up to this moment. The internet, one good thing is that it doesn't lie. So if you go out there, you would be able to see different disciples.
And even some of
left.
the characters that featured
exactly, yes,
have independent interviews and content
on different kinds of topics. So I don't think maybe it's because it's the BBC and it's a big organization, and that's the reason why people are raising their eyebrows. Or the people have been so ignorant that they don't know that these things have existed even before this. And that's why when people ask me, were you surprised when you saw this documentary? If you ask me that, I wasn't surprised, because I've seen something like that.
That brought another question that people have also asked. Why haven't any of Nigeria media organizations?
You are a journalist, Percy. Why didn't you do that story? Why didn't you investigate it?
It's a big question. I can't really say why. I think it's not of much interest. I don't think though there have been controversies from the beginning. I remember Chris Okoti, who came out in the 90s to talk about this particular issue, and a lot of people that also came up. And we are so cornered by religion in this country. Probably an organization will feel, okay, if we do something like this, don't touch it. If we do something like this, it's going to
sensitive.
Be sensitive and create problems and all that. Probably that is one of the reasons why people didn't really look at that angle and say we should do something like that. But aside this, you remember during the insurgency, you hardly would see some very big stories coming from Nigeria.
So is that also because of religion?
No. That's not because of religion. So
something must be wrong somewhere.
Something
must be wrong somewhere. Up to now, I don't think there's someone that has done a very big story on the life and times of Shekau, as it were. He's dead. I hope the BBC does that, comes to our rescue, because I don't see any Nigerian media outfit doing that yet. It's possible they're even working on it. When it comes out, then people will be like, why now?
Especially if they are not happy with the narrative.
Yes.
But then why don't you tell your story yourself? Why do you wait for someone to do it and then you start, picking holes from the way the story is told?
It's good for you to tell your own stories. That's why Africa, Nigeria, all that, we are waking up to say, okay, let's tell our stories ourselves. Like we are telling ourselves that gone are the days where you depict the child with flies coming to his mouth, with poverty, with a big tummy, with ribs showing and all that. We want to show the beautiful sides of Africa. And that's why I think Africa is really coming, all the attention is coming back to Africa in terms of music, in terms of movies, in terms of stuff. You can see we are getting that. But now that is the essence of it. If you have a story, you tell it. If another person has his, he will tell it. When Obasanjo was writing, he's very fond of writing books, and anytime he writes any book, you discover that somebody will be vilified, most probably in it. If you see Obasanjo writing, or you see Al-Rufai writing, all those people that like writing, you see that somehow they tell their own part of the story, and someone will say, it's not true, he's depicting me this way and that way. The truth is that you have to tell your own story. If you have said you are this in his book, write your own book, go and publish, and say, no, this is how you also see him, or this is your own part of the story. I think it helps us as journalists that are trying to always balance stories, to be able to see that, okay, you have this side and you have this side. It is left for the reader, or the person watching, or the consumer of that information to be able to make sense of it and choose what is right.
Conclusions. I'm talking about, talking about telling your own story, I'm disturbed, I'm worried that, all those years that we've had people saying stuff about the Squan Church, the church has refused to react or to respond to it, and then today we have narratives, especially people that still admire the ministry of the late prophet, that find offensive. But then the church as an organization has refused to respond to those things, and it didn't start from the BBC's investigation. From way back when all those people, the disciples that left, when they started talking, some even published books, but the church has refused to respond to that. What do you make of this person?
Well, I think it might just be a matter of policy. Probably the man of God, late man of God, decided, okay, I'm not responding, I'm not putting my energy into responding to criticisms that are coming against the church and against his person, because this documentary is about him and not the church, right? If you look at the title, it's him and not the church. So probably he just feel, let me just save my energy from responding. If you are going to be responding, how many criticism are you going to be responding to every day?
You will respond time.
Yes.
You will explain
You
time.
explain time, no evidence.
Yeah, if we say this started in the 90s, as far as I can remember,
Yes.
in the 90s, you can imagine how many criticisms you will be responding to. Probably you just feel, let me just channel my energy into doing something else than responding to criticism.
Not probably.
It might likely be.
I think in one of the videos I saw of him, it's still out there online, was when he was saying that if someone goes out to tell people whether he's bad or he's good, to him it is free advert. It's out there, you'll be able to search it.
And it's actually free advert.
Yes, he said
Look at what
exactly.
yes,
Just
because
in the
now,
last 1 week.
I mean, imagine free advert for him, free money for some other people, because imagine within 24 hours, that documentary, the episode hit 1 million views. Within 72 hours, it was like 2.5. Right now it's about a week or 8 days. It's going to be around 3.9 to 4 million views, on that. And a lot of sharks, social media sharks, have gone and pinch a little bit so that they are able to also gain some of the followership and all the views, that has brought up. That's on one side. The other side is that I tell you, verily, that this Sunday you're going to have tons of people turning into Synagogue Church of Christ. You're going to find a lot of people going just because of this controversy. Now we like controversy in this country. Yeah. Anything that is controversial, you see people moving towards it. And that is exemplified by a lot of things in our society. If you have Big Brother Nigeria, you find that the most controversial character or the person that looks like she or he doesn't
just
have
bad character.
home training at all. Now that's the person who would garner a lot of support. People will be there putting money to make sure the person doesn't leave the house. And eventually, if because of that bad character, the person is given a strike and the person is sent out, that should be a shame. The person will go out there and before this company is putting the person on the billboard, this person. Even the social media, you're signing big contracts. Even on social media, you're going to find the person having more viewers than the person that was just a good person, So we love controversy, and I'm sure that this, like he said, I think in these terms, I'll give him that prophet. Because he said, whatever you go and tell about me, whether it's bad or good, even if it is bad, it's free advert for me. Yeah. Free, because people will continue to know about me and will continue to look for me.
I've seen a lot of people on Facebook posting videos of the church service just last Sunday. They recorded on their phones. That's to tell you that, okay, this person has never taken time to watch Emmanuel TV. But because of this controversy, people are watching.
Exactly.
And people are, and he's also getting a lot of, let me use the word patronage from people. A lot of people showing sympathy to the church and also...
Now I agree that if you want to stop and respond to anyone that criticizes you, you'll never get to your destination. But now if you watch this documentary, human rights issues were raised. I understand that he doesn't, he doesn't have the time to respond to everyone. But these are serious human rights issues.
Very, very
gender-based violence, there were rape, there were a lot of things. Are these the kind of issues that anyone should ignore? Even the government, I understand the Nigerian police will say you would have to report formally to them before they investigate the matter. Yeah. But then there are a lot of human rights issues. And then we've seen a building collapse.
Yeah.
A building that, didn't have the approval for story building, and then the belts, a tall building, and then lives were lost. Even people that came from other countries.
And what happened after that?
There's been no prosecution, nothing. I know there was a statement the Lagos state government made, that, they were investigating. They came down hard on the score, but then nothing has been heard about it after all these years.
Yeah.
And then the founder says he doesn't respond. But these are serious issues.
They are. And from what we see in the documentary, that not once has he been to court, to respond or to honor any summons. about how he
in fact, the president at that time, President Jonathan, came to condole with him over what has happened.
Yeah.
After the collapse.
After the collapse.
Remember what I said about religion and Nigeria?
Yes.
Some things that you expect that you see the society taking very seriously because it has religion connotation. People take it very lightly and it becomes very sensitive.
People avoid it.
People try to as much as they can to avoid it. That's what is happening. Probably that's why some of these issues were not really heated on and not really brought up to see that some of the people that allegedly accused him of those things get justice. One burning thing in my mind is the issue of ethics in conducting this documentary. One who asked, you've already answered the question, you attempted to answer the question, why now? Why this documentary?
Well, if something is worth your story, as a journalist, you do it.
Doesn't mean that it's not worth the story of Nigerian media.
Personally, if you're going to ask me as a journalist, it hasn't been worth my story at all. Maybe because of what you said, that anything that is about religion, people touch it with a very long pole here in Nigeria. Maybe that could be one of the cases. Two is that anything that you don't have proof of, you rather just look at it. In fact, at some point that we were seeing some of the disciples going out to say, he did this to me, he did that to me, and all that, we still take it with a little bit of, it's your word against his, because he has not said anything. So if you have access to the person and then you are able to see evidences, just as weighty as BBC has got, because if you look at that documentary, you're going to see them superimpose videos of these people when they were much younger. So you can't say it's a lie. You look at this person and the person is, this is how I look now, this is when I was doing this, I was presenting this, I was one of the editors of the videos, I was one of the disciples, so you could see it is very, very clear. So most probably if I had all those resources at my disposal and I know them, maybe I'll now say, okay, I think this is worth my story. But if you don't have, what do you do? So
I think it's interest.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's interest. If you're interested in something, you will go as far as you can to get all these materials that you just talked about now. I think it's interest. But I'm still wondering why BBC picked so much interest in this man to do this documentary, even after he has
As you said, personally, for me, that documentary raised more questions than answers. We are journalists. I mean, we have done a lot of documentaries, we've told a lot of stories. When you go out to film, when you go to the field, you interview 5-10 people, and if it's a news report, you probably have just 3 minutes to tell your story. So you decide which portion. Probably the interview lasted up to 10 minutes, because you can't just go and interview someone for 30 seconds and then you come and put it in your story. That person probably spoke for up to 10 minutes, and then you come and you choose
20 seconds, 30
seconds. So what is the basis of you? What influences your choice of that 20 seconds? Why is that 20 seconds of interest to you? Now, if you watch that documentary, there were a lot of indictments on the late prophets. There was one particular one I found really interesting, not in a good way anyway. One that said he's the biggest con man that ever lived.
Yes.
So
I think it's white lady.
I am sure that lady said a lot of things, but the producer picked that particular, and they got a video to support what that person said. It's a very graphic video, very disturbing video of the late prophet hitting a white guy, and there's a narrative to that. There are other interviews that supported the narrative, that this whole scenario.
One more that I won't forget is the one by a Nigerian, also one of the disciples. What was he saying? He was saying that T.B Joshua confided in him that his forefathers were enslaved by the whites. So it is his own turn now to enslave the whites, and this is what he has done. And as you were saying that was where they put that video of where he slapped the white man, the guy toppled and fell. A very graphic video, So these are some of the things that I'm sure the producers must have. Okay, this is going to cause a lot of controversy, so let's make sure we put this in. Let's put that in and all that. Well, they've succeeded. There are lots of them. Some of the deliberate things are things like putting the young lady that said the said was his daughter, or is his daughter, to speak last on the third series of the documentary. She was the last person to talk. And it was as if, and she said she was going to continue to pursue the truth and all that.
And you wonder what more truth is there to tell. I mean, they've read it all. What else? Is there something worse than what we've seen already?
I think after the third series, a lot of things have now started coming out. If the prophet did not want to respond, people are now beginning to respond. The church itself said they did not even know these people. You know, of course, we are not going to take their word for that because we've seen pictures of these people in their old videos. You know, so that one is another thing altogether, a different kettle of fish. But for the last the third episode that they did, that they had the young lady at the end, you see that now there's this wise man, the Greek guy that was working with him. Yeah. He has responded. He has his own close to 1 hour where he was fielding questions from people that had watched the documentary. You know, so you can see that it has not ended. BBC has done 3.
Definitely will
Most probably we are going to have maybe 6 to 7.
Of course, there are a lot of people that are also coming up to say some good things about him to counter what the BBC did. This also brings about the ethical issue that I raised earlier. Is the BBC trying to tell us that this man in his whole life, the 3 hours documentary, there is no good thing that this man has ever done?
The only good thing that this man, that endeared this man to a lot of people is the humanitarian side of the church. But then through the documentary, they said it's just a cover-up. That he uses that to cover up
even
all
that
the.
One, they decided to.
You know, I don't get. And then there are people. I think it's been a celebrity. There's a guy I saw on Instagram that said, "Look, whatever you people want to say about this man, I don't care. This man fed my family, sponsored my education." There are people like that, and that does not invalidate those who think they were hurt by him. It doesn't invalidate whatever their story is. But then there are still people that didn't see that side of him. If there was ever that kind of side, they only saw the good side of it. But my concern is why the documentary had to impose it on the viewers that even the good things he did were a cover-up.
That's where the issue is, because I feel if you have a documentary, you should be able to balance the stories. At least you should be able, if you watch the documentary on Idi Amin, for instance, you'll be able to see that he was a good sportsman. You'll be able to see that he was a very nationalistic guy. You'll be able to see that he has a very good sense of humor. They'll bring all those negatives, but at least you'll be able to see some of these things. I watched all through trying to find what they could say that was good about this man. And of course, he couldn't and wouldn't be bad, totally bad, completely. It's not possible, you know, for him to attract the kind of people. So I felt it shouldn't have been all negative also. There should have been, these are the positive things he has done. But the little positive that they even tried to bring, which was that of generosity, they used that one to cancel it and said even his own daughter he was not providing for. Well, that is where I saw the downside of this particular documentary.
And then I think it was too broad. They brought in too many issues. Colonialism, the disciples, the men, the women. And imagine when someone says, I was a very close confidant of this man and he told me this in confidence. I think that also touches on the integrity of the person speaking.
And then the confidence becomes
for you to become a confidant, that means you shared a lot of things in common. If he was alive and he is a verbose person, if you wanted to start sharing the things, you also shared it with him in confidence.
Let's see how it goes.
I mean, it may be ugly, you know.
Exactly.
So it touches on the integrity of the people that also spoke.
I watched a part of the wise man's.
You did?
I watched some part of his video where he was talking about one of the disciples that came out to criticize the leader. And it was like, if you are criticizing this man and you are saying he's fake and all the power was just acting and all that, so you that experienced the power firsthand and you were also healing people, so was your own also fake? You know, and these are people that will say, I was very close to this man. He told me this in confidence. He told me this in confidence. And then you are now criticizing him, and you are doing the same thing. So what becomes of you?
And you waited for 10 years to speak out.
To say anything.
Then that makes you an accomplice.
Well, but that's another thing is fear. In the whole of that documentary, if you've seen one person that they said had confronted him, was the person that they purported to be his daughter. And you can see where she ended, by the shore of the sea, you know, picking pebbles and stuff. You know, that's what we saw. But the rest of them, how dare you? Because from the way they painted it, you can't just face him and say this is this, this is that. You know, if you watch other sundry visuals, because as you watch this, it's good for you to be able to watch others where they call him daddy, you know, they call him father. We've seen people change their surnames to his own surnames. Yeah, some of them, most of the time, they said he would not approve of that, you know, and all that. But you know, that actually also brings to mind the trend of what is happening in Nigeria now, where people see and take religious leaders and sometimes even despise their own parents.
Yeah.
You know, what the kind of glowing words they wouldn't tell their parents, they would prefer to say it to a religious leader, you know, outside, everywhere, that you would never be able to, for instance, just take a social media page of someone, you would never be able to see the person maybe talking about his father or his mother.
Much as he will do,
but some you not even see at all. You not even see pictures, nothing. But if you see the religious leaders, if you see how my father, my mother, my this, my
sometimes that father, they're even older than that religious leader. They call
of course,
father.
of course. I have that one is also there. As a Catholic, I'm older than some people that are Reverend Fathers. When I come and say father,
title anyway.
That one is the title. But most
creative.
times these things happen this way, and people just and I think this is where people now become sheeple, where you now see that the thin line between being very religious to being in a cult just comes in, because people think it's just in cultism you do rituals. Yeah. In religious worship, most times too you see there are rituals, there are ways series of things to do things. So there's a very thin line before you know someone has crossed into becoming a cultist. And I think to a very large extent, if what these people had said was true, that was the kind of situation, because they entered into something that they had no power to leave. They had no power to confront whoever it was that they were looking up to, you know, until the scales fell off their eyes or whatever it is that gave in, and then when they left, that's when they could say it.
I think one other question is why you imagine the white man living in his country. You imagine, you know, anytime you see a white man, you just assume this one is intelligent, he knows it all.
Exactly. They are critical thinkers.
And then they leave their countries and then come down to Nigeria, to Lagos.
Like, we're not critical thinkers. That one is
and stay for months, for years, to be coached, and then also to get healing. I think it brings up the issue of people not trying as much as they can to know God for themselves.
Yeah,
You're always looking out to someone. Yes, it's good to have a spiritual cover, but then you're always looking out to someone that, oh, let me go there, there is healing there, miracles are happening there, they are prophesying here and all that.
Yeah.
It confuses people. You run from one place to another and you become so confused.
That idea of miracle, that is where
our director is making faces from the corner. He has been giving us signs. So what is the lesson? I mean, what's the lesson from this? For me personally, I won't judge those that found themselves in that kind of situation, not only in the squad, but you know, there are several of this kind of centers across the country. Yes. I know that it takes sometimes it's problem, you know, it's a problem that defies solution around you. And then, in fact, I dare say that you are not Christian enough if at least one person has not asked you to go to T.B Joshua.
Yes, exactly.
I know that several times people have told, especially when I find myself around Lagos, they'll be like, why don't you go to T.B Joshua's church?
Yes,
you know, so most times people go because of problem, and some just found themselves there. Yeah. And my prayer is that God should not test us with a problem that will defy solution.
In fact,
that will now lead you to
looking for
a place
miracles.
that you put yourself in trouble. That's the prayer. But what's the lesson as we try to wrap up?
Well, to me, honestly, is this issue of miracles. To me, I feel that if you wake up in the morning, you slept in the night, it's like you died. You wake up in the morning, hale and hearty, it's a miracle.
That's the biggest miracle.
I tell you, the sun sets, you know, in the west, it rises in the east the next morning, golden, and then you wake up and you look at it. It's a miracle. That you're able to ingest oxygen and then exhale carbon dioxide, and the trees take the carbon dioxide and then breathe out oxygen for you. Wow! It's not miracle. What am I looking for again? You understand? What will be, and I think this is just my 2 cup, I mean 2 naira, or 10 cup. This is mine on this, honestly.
Because
I think people that are looking for this, it's almost akin to the kind of situation you find when a Ponzi scheme comes up. Someone comes and tells you that, drop 10 naira. By tomorrow, you're going to have 10 million naira. And you see people rushing to do that. And it's just, that's the kind of miracle you're looking for. So the next day, and then everybody, you put money, and then it's gone. And then you sit down and start when you look at it, you're looking for something that is out of the usual. Whereas, it is in your shokoto actually.
What you're looking for?
I think what she said is valid. Most of these people, we're in a time where things are very hard.
Yep.
People are depressed. You see the number of people committing suicide rising in this country, in this state in particular. I don't think I've ever heard of any suicide case in this. But recently,
we didn't used to.
Last year and early this year, a lot of people are committed suicide. So people are depressed. People are going through hard times. No food to eat, insecurities, and all that. Ailments that you cannot take care of and all that. These are some of the things that push people into seeking for solutions in places that they might really not get the solutions.
Yeah.
I think we should, as humans, understand that God made us in His own image. This image is not the physical image that you see, it's the spirit that He put in us.
Yeah.
I remember a preacher saying, anything that you see people do now, God, that was the image. God has made it already. He put it in you so that you'll be able to do it. When you know God for yourself, you will not be running from one place to another. Get a place and stay. And pray also. Don't be depending on somebody's prayer that this person will pray for me and I'll get healed. Also pray. Have the faith.
Pastor.
When you have faith and you pray, things will work out for you. I think people should learn to do that and avoid jumping from one place to another. It confuses you.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
So that's your 2 naira.
That's my 2 naira for today.
Okay. So let's hear your own now. You've not said your own.
No, I already prayed that God should not test us. We try that because the truth is, when you find yourself in certain situations,
honestly, you won't even know it's you.
Your brain will stop working.
You won't even know it's you.
Yes.
People will be like, is this so person?
Exactly.
I think we should not be. That prayer lead us not into temptation. I think it's very,
exactly.
very important.
It's very, very
as important as that part that says, give us this day.
Our daily bread.
Don't be
sharp today, not tomorrow.
Exactly, really important.